What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Well, before I ever became a mom, I always wondered how being a parent would impact me as a therapist. And it was super intriguing. I figured it would change me somehow in my work with my clients, but I also didn't often hear other therapists talk about this topic. And so now that I am a mom, I thought I would go ahead and share some of how becoming a mom has impacted my therapy work, because let me tell you, it has impacted my therapy work in many ways. So if you're curious to hear more about that, then keep watching. Welcome to Private Practice Skills. I'm Dr. Marie Fang, psychologist in private practice. I post videos offering tools I learned the hard way about starting and growing private practice so that you don't have to. So as a person who has a tendency to lean anxious, before becoming a mom, I often spent time legitimately worrying about how I was going to balance being a mom with being a therapist. Yes, how would I balance the hours in my schedule because I wanted to be available to my kids and be at home as much as possible, but I also really felt it in the sense of whether I would still be able to have emotional capacity to be available to my clients when I'm spending the bulk of my time being available to my family members, particularly the small ones who they need a bunch of stuff. And as it turns out, there were so many ways that becoming a mom impacted my therapy work, but I was surprised to see that my therapy work was impacted both in positive and in some more challenging ways. So I'm gonna hop into both the positives and the challenges in this video, but before I hop into those, I just wanna make sure I give the disclaimer and saying this is my unique individual experience of how being a parent has impacted my therapy work. I'm not trying to prescribe that this is what happens to all people or even some people. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I thought I would just share my experience because I always wanted to hear what other people's experiences were like. Now with that disclaimer in mind, let's dive into some of the ways that becoming a mom has had positive impacts on my therapy work. One of the first positive impacts that became immediately apparent to me as soon as I became pregnant with my first child is I had a newfound empathy for all parents. I mean, I thought I had an empathy for parents before. I don't think I was being judgy or anything, but suddenly I felt like, oh, this is a whole other can of worms than I ever realized until even just being pregnant helped me appreciate that more. And so as my clients would get pregnant or talk about their kids or talk about their not so cute parenting moments, suddenly there was just so much more room in my heart to be compassionate and caring towards all of those things compared to before. The second positive impact that came up again pretty much as soon as I found out I was pregnant with my first child was an increased capacity to nurture. There was just this kind of like innate mom vibe that seemed to appear as if from nowhere as soon as I became pregnant. And I don't know if it's the oxytocin that started pumping through me, but it also continued on even after my daughter was born. She's now 1.5 years. And again, with this second pregnancy, it's just continued on. This sort of inner mom, like beast comes out, like mama bear in a loving way comes out. And prior to being pregnant, I felt nurturing, but somehow this seemed to be different, like it came from somewhere deep within rather than just sort of like in my brain. I think I know some of the right tools that I'm supposed to use in order to be nurturing. I actually felt nurturing from somewhere deep inside, if that makes sense. I feel like moms out there will understand what I'm saying. Another way that becoming a mom positively impacted my therapy work is suddenly I had much healthier boundaries because there's a little person waiting for me at home. So if somebody cancels last minute, but I've been paying for childcare for my daughter, or somebody asks to move their schedule around last minute and I don't have childcare available for that, I just have way better boundaries now to be like, nope, I'm charging for that missed session, or I can't move that appointment to that slot because I just don't have it. There is a child at home who needs me. I don't say all of that to my clients, but the effect is I've had way healthier boundaries. There's no part of me that has that internal waffling of like, should I still charge? Oh, but like, I think I could make it work if I move things around, which is something that I was more prone to before becoming a mom. So because there's something that is such a high priority that needs me so much in order to survive, it's just really easy to keep healthy boundaries with my clients. And the fourth major benefit that I've found as a result of becoming a mom is I have a lot more patience and flexibility with my clients. Because for all of you who are parents out there, you know that as your child develops, you have to be patient and flexible with them. There's nothing wrong going on with their development when they're, say, throwing a tantrum and, flailing around all over the place. They are going through a healthy part of their developmental process, and you need to learn to be patient and flexible while caring for them well and providing a, healthy container for them. Basically, all the stuff that we learn in our training is now happening live in my household every day. So it became a lot easier to be patient and flexible with my clients as I saw each of my clients on their own developmental trajectory. Even though I work with adults and not kids, we are all continuing to develop, and we all need that kind of patient, nurturing environment in order to grow and thrive. Now, lest you be tempted to think that becoming a mom or becoming a parent has only, fluffy bunnies and roses as a result as far as how your therapy work is impacted, there were definitely some challenges that came up as far as, my work as a therapist after becoming a mom. So let's dive into those. Now, the biggest challenge in my therapy work that happened as a result of becoming a mom was no surprise and is what I thought was going to happen, and that was that I'd have less emotional bandwidth for my clients. And this seems to apply more in some seasons than others, like if my daughter's going through the 18-month sleep regression and teething and sick at the same time. I'm gonna have less emotional bandwidth at that point because I've been staying up at night soothing a crying child all day, and now I'm gonna go see my clients, and if I have a high need client, I suddenly don't have quite as much room for that client sometimes. And by that I mean there's just kind of less emotional abundance for me to give from. I kind of have to muster it up. One way that I've coped with this is I've just accepted that for myself during this season of life, not only am I seeing fewer clients to account for my lower emotional bandwidth that I have available, but I also am only accepting clients that kind of fit within my current emotional capacity, and that there may be someday in the future when I don't have, babies and toddlers in my house, or I have more emotional bandwidth and I can take on some of those clients again. A second challenge that I've touched on already when I was talking about those healthy boundaries is that I have limited availability for clients. There just isn't flexibility in my schedule to move things around. So before being a mom, I used to be able to just schedule a client on my calendar last minute, or I could just, I could follow up on a phone call super quick, immediately. And now it's I'm chasing a toddler around my house. So hopefully I can get back to you in the next 12 hours, and maybe I'll be free to see you in the next week or two, rather than I'm gonna get back to you in the next 15 minutes and I will maybe be free to see you later today. Challenge number 3 is mom brain is a real thing. It's a research phenomenon that when your body goes through pregnancy, your brain goes through a neural pruning just like teenagers go through, and also a lot of your hormones like the oxytocin and the relaxin make you more clumsy and forgetful. They also make you more nurturing and connective and more attuned to your child and your therapy clients. But as a result, mom brain made it a lot more difficult to keep track of all of the details going on for my clients. Before becoming a mom, I had this seemingly uncanny capacity to just remember everything that ever came up with a client, even if it was some minute detail they mentioned in passing 2 years before. And now that I'm a mom, in order to make sure I'm still offering the best care possible, I have to actively make sure I am putting effort towards remembering all the details of what's going on for my clients so that I don't forget in the middle of session, or God forbid, call my client by some other client's name, or, that type of slip up. By the way, I'm consulting with my notes because I can't remember what I'm saying. So the case in point. Okay, and the last challenge that I'm going to name here is particularly relevant to my experience right now, and that's that pregnancy sucks. But most of the time people, of course, they're working on their therapy stuff and they have no idea the slew of discomforts and problems I'm experiencing as a result of being pregnant. And it seems to just, shift throughout the pregnancy, but whether it's that I'm spending an entire session trying to keep my lunch down while also helping my client, or, as is happening as I'm entering the 3rd trimester now, I have a person literally kicking me in every direction while I'm meeting with my clients, and in no other context outside of pregnancy would it be appropriate for a therapist to be getting kicked throughout their entire session, or kicking my bladder, and then I needed to go to the bathroom break, and oh dear, it's only gonna get worse from here. I hope this didn't sound like complaining, because honestly, I'm so grateful that I have another one on the way, and my first is an amazing daughter. I love her, and I love seeing my clients, even while pregnant, even if it means I have to sit on 3 pillows to make it happen. Listen, speaking of pregnancy sucks, no one talks about hemorrhoids. I'm not going to share any more details, but that's a real thing when you're pregnant and you're a therapist, because the sitting doesn't help. Anyway, if you're in that situation, 3 pillows has been helpful. Okay, we'll leave it there. Well, these are just some of the ways that becoming a mom have impacted me as a therapist and my work with my clients. And I realize I just have, a 1.5-year-old and a second on the way. So I've only just begun the journey that is being a parent, parenting, whatever you want to call it. And let me repeat something I said earlier. I by no means think that this is like a universal experience. This is just Marie's experience, but I can tell you, whether you're a parent already or you're thinking of becoming a parent someday, that becoming a parent will impact you as a therapist in some form, both with its, advantages and challenges. So hopefully it was helpful to hear just one example of how that's played out for me. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. Speaking of mom brain, TherapyNotes really helps you stay on top of all your tasks, especially if you have trouble keeping track of what those tasks are, like I do these days. TherapyNotes helps you with scheduling, notes, and billing, and they have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included within the subscription, so you don't have to pay any extra in order to access the telehealth platform. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I definitely was more rambly and I think silly compared to usual, but I hope you found it helpful just hearing a little bit about how my work as a therapist has been impacted since becoming a mom. And for any parents out there, let me know in the comments how you noticed your therapy work get impacted since becoming a parent. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. I have a foot cramp. I'm sorry. See, when that happens in session, you can't do this. You can do it, little buddy. Foot cramp. Life is hard. Okay. You can do it.